Hello and welcome to Sunnyside Crochet. Today I will show you a few basic crochet stitches to get you started on your crochet journey. All stitches are a variation or combination of these basic stitches, so once you have these down, nothing can stop you. So let's get started. Probably the easiest yarn to work with is medium or worsted weight yarn. And that just means it has 4 plies in there making up the yarn. It's not too bulky and it's not too thin, and it's pretty versatile. I use it the most and it works great in a wide variety of projects. Next, you need a hook. Any size from an H to a K is acceptable to use with worsted weight yarn. I tend to pull a little tight while I crochet, and I use a size K hook to make up for that. It may take a little time for you to figure out what hook works best for you, or will help you achieve the right gauge for a pattern, and that's just part of the journey. I've been crocheting for almost 25 years, but really got into it about 10 years ago. I just loved how I could take some yarn and a hook and just make something beautiful. So let's start by tying your yarn on your hook. A lot of people are a fan of a slip knot, and I will show you how to do it. So you take the end of your yarn and you hold it with your thumb right there on your fingers. You have your 2 fingers together and you wrap around, go all the way around. Make sure you go over that tail end and then you come around again. So you have 2 loops on there, and you're just going to take your hook in between your 2 fingers, so you don't want to do it too tight. Grab it and pull that inner loop out, and you're just going to pull both ends, and you have a knot, a slip knot. Okay, and this is nice because it's adjustable. You can make it tighter, you can make it looser, however you want to do it. However, I will tell you, I do not use slip knots. I had a very bad experience with a blanket I was working on, and accidentally pulled out the wrong end of my blanket, and I was working in a strip and basically had to redo the entire strip. There was no way to salvage it. So I actually got into a debate with my friend, probably about 2 years ago, over slip knots versus square knots to tie off on your hook. And she always used a slip knot and was working on a big blanket, and somehow she pulled out her slip knot too and lost her foundation chain for her blanket. And I tried to brainstorm with her to, how to fix it, but she ended up just restarting the blanket. I felt really bad because, like I said, it was like a week after we had that debate. So I will show you how to do a square knot. All right, and all you have to do with the slip knot is just pull this end that's still attached to your skein of yarn, and it's gone. So the square knots that I normally use is just over and under, and then you take the tail and over and under, and I just pull that little one a little snug, not too tight, around my hook, and there we go, a square knot. It will not pull out, and that is why I use the square knot. I just never wanted a repeat of that incident ever again. I was very unhappy. Okay, so now that we have our knot discussion out of the way, we want to do what is called a chain stitch. And all you're going to do is you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook and just pull through. And wrap your yarn around your hook and pull through. And it's good to keep in mind that you want to chain a little bit loose, because if you chain too tight, your project will pucker, and you don't want that. So we'll just keep chaining. We're going to go for 16. And I can't talk and count at the same time, so I'm just going to count here in a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15, 16. All right, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I can't talk and count at the same time. So now that we have 16, that gives us a row of 15 to work with here. Now, I know some people will turn and they will start their row in that first chain and just start there. Me, I like to work in the back loops of my chains just because I think it gives a cleaner edge to the bottom of your project you're working on. So I work in the back loops. So we have that extra chain on the end there, and we're just going in the back loop of the next chain, and we're just going to single crochet. There's one. So we're just going through that loop, pulling through, and pulling through both loops. And again, through that loop, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through both loops. Pretty easy. And if you can't go fast, don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up. I mean, I know when I started, I did not go fast at all. In fact, starting off on a chain, I don't go fast anyway because it's a little tricky to work with because the project doesn't have any substance to it yet. There's not much to hold on to. So that first row usually takes me a little bit. So yarn over and yarn over, pull through both. Over, both. And last one, you're going to single crochet right there in that back loop, and there we are. And that is our first row done. Okay, to start the second row, we will chain one, and that is your first stitch for that row. We'll turn, and we're going to skip that first stitch and start in the second one. So, and you're going to go through both sides. And there are variations on the single crochet, but we're just showing you the very basic one right now. So you're going to go through both sides of that first stitch there and do your single crochet. And this gives you a flatter appearance of your crochet. If you just go through one side, it gives you a ribbed look. So it all depends on what you're going for. Alright. So we'll single crochet, and you can single crochet as much as you'd like just to get practice on that stitch. Really, that's the only way to get practice, is to just keep doing it. Find little things to do. Like my son, he's 8, and he does a chain stitch, and I told him, hey, you know, you can do this and use it to decorate your Christmas tree. So that's how I got him to do a chain stitch. So yeah, you just have to find something there that you want to work for. Like, this makes a good scarf. Okay, so now that we're at the end of that row, we will do a slip stitch just to learn that. So we're going to chain one and turn. Now the slip stitch is a little different from the single crochet. You're just going to yarn over in that, like I said, not the first stitch, the second one. We're just going to yarn over and just pull through that bottom stitch and that loop. So pull through the bottom stitch and the loop. Pull through the bottom stitch and the loop. stitch and the loop, bottom stitch and the loop, and we'll just keep going across like this. Okay, and we'll do another row just to get a little bit of practice. We're going to chain one, skip that first stitch, and just yarn over and pull through both. Okay, the next stitch we're going to do will be a half double crochet. So we're going to chain two, skip that first stitch, we're going to yarn over, go through both sides from that previous row, pull through. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. You're just going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Yarn over through that last stitch, yarn over and pull through. And there are a couple different variations on the half double crochet too, but this is the basic way to do a half double crochet. Through the stitch, pull through, yarn over, through the stitch, pull through them all. Yarn over, them all. Alright, we'll do one more row of them. Skip the first stitch, yarn over, yarn. It's always a good idea to count your stitches every few rows just to make sure you didn't drop one somewhere. Alright. And here we can already see the different textures between the stitches, which is pretty cool. It depends on what you're going for in your project. Alright, now that we did the half double, we're going to move on to the double crochet. Now some people chain 3 to start a double crochet. I tend to chain loose. It's just habit from doing a loose foundation chain so that your project doesn't pucker. You see we have a straight line here. It's not curved, not doing any funky stuff there. So I chain loose, so I only use 2 chains for a double crochet. Some people do 3. It's all about finding out what works best for you. In fact, I used to do 3 chains for a double crochet until I started doing corner to corner blankets, and that changed the whole game for me because doing 3 just made the blanket too loose. So I just started chaining 2 just all the way across every project I do for a double crochet. Alright, so I chain 2, you can chain 3 if you want. If you don't like this gap at the beginning here, there are ways to fix that too, but that's going to be another tutorial. We're not going to cover that today because that's not a basic. So we're going to skip that first stitch, and we started just like we did for the half double crochet. We're going to yarn over, put our yarn in that second, or our needle in that second stitch, yarn over, pull through. Now this is where it's different. We're going to yarn over and just pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over again and pull through the second 2 loops. The next one, yarn over, put your hook in, yarn over, 2 loops, yarn over, 2 loops. Again, needle in, hook rather. I was trying my hand at knitting. I'll get it one of these days. Two and 2 and 2 and 2. Oop. 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 2 and 2. Last one. Chain 2 and turn, and there we are. And we're just going to start the next row just like we did before. Okay, now that we have finished the double crochets, it is time to learn the triple or treble crochet. Depends on who you're talking to and what they do as to what they call it. I don't use it very often, um, occasionally in a pattern, but not normally in a closed pattern like this. The biggest I'll normally use is a double crochet. Once you start getting bigger, you start getting separation and holes in your work, and I just don't use it very often. So for the triple crochet, we're going to chain 3 or 4. It depends on what works for you. Since I started chaining 2 for the double crochets, I've only been doing 3 for the triple crochets. So whatever works best for you. So for a triple, we are going to yarn over twice. So now we have 3 wraps around our hook. And in that second stitch, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, and then just like a double crochet, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops each until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So there's 1, 2, 3, triple crochet. And it looks just like that. So next one, there's 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you know, you might also be taking note of how I hold the yarn, how I move, and this is just 25 years of crocheting. Is just, this is where I've gotten to, what works for me. Holding your hook a different way or your yarn a different way might work for you, but just wrapping it around my finger just always worked for me, so I could keep tension. So I have it between my first and middle finger there, so I can keep tension on it as I'm working. One, two, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last one. And sometimes these are tricky to get into, which is another reason why you should chain loose. Because I do chain loose, and sometimes they're still tricky to get into. 1, 2, 3. Alright, and we will turn. And you can see what I'm talking about, just the spaces in between the stitches. That's why I don't use it very often. Alright, and I think that about covers all the basic stitches to get you started on your crocheting journey. Now you can pick your favorite and continue on in this and make a scarf, or use a couple different stitches to make a pattern in there. I'm sure anything you decide to do, people will love it. A final note is knots. So when I finish a project, I like to make sure there is a knot. So what I'll do is I will pull through, pull down, pull through, cut this off, and pull through and leave a tail. And some people call them ugly knots, but the way I see it, anything I make has to survive my 8-year-old and the washing machine. So I would rather have ugly knots that I try to hide and tuck into another row than to have a project unravel. So give me 1 second, I will grab a pair of scissors and show you what I mean by tucking in your end. So I have my scissors, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to snip this off. And you want to leave yourself a little bit of a tail so you're able to run it through and then down into the previous row to tuck it in. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it down this last stitch, and it would actually be easier if I used a smaller hook for this. So this is an I. So down there. And then I'm just going to run my hook through the bottom of these stitches, pull my tail through to kind of secure it, and then cut off the excess. Now, unless the person you're giving this to is a crocheter and they've been doing things for a while, they're never going to notice that knot. So please keep them. It'll help them last longer. Remember, it's better to have ugly knots than it is to have a project unravel. So having said all of that, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. I hope you have a great day, and as always, happy hooking!